Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KMED this weekend. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the Real Estate Guys, with you. And thanks for joining us in, well, mid-August, heading towards Labor Day and back to school, the fall. Boy, it's going to be I can't wait for fall. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of things going on, and hope you're going to make something happen enjoyable in your life as you go through there. Today we're talking about Market Watch and talk about August being still a busy month in real estate. A lot of sales going on, a lot of looking and a lot of buying. I still have to say that. And one of the ways you do that, of course, you got to have a loan. Who's better to talk about that, Joe, than Guy Giles from Summit Funding, who's our resident expert when it comes to all things mortgage interest rates. Is that true? Welcome to the show.
Hey, I've done a couple of them anyways. Right now I'm focusing on this chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
I should have brought that in after the show, maybe.
That probably wasn't a good thing. One of the things, Guy just got back from Sturgis. You know, he's a bike rider in Sturgis, South Dakota. They have the rendezvous, I guess, whatever that's called, that they do where thousands of, bikers come in there. It's quite a place. And you were there. That's cool. You get around a lot more than Joe and I do, I'll tell you that.
Hey.
What?
I pitched a few games just outside
Rapid
recently.
City. Well,
Rapid City.
Yeah.
I've been up that way and had a little fun up there.
And you went and
probably not as much as Guy.
And you saw the Mount Rushmore. Isn't that a cool spot?
Yeah, that was kind of the destination for the trip. Was taking the family there, and we
isn't that cool?
Managed
Mount
to get
Rushmore
over to Sturgis for a day.
Deadwood, South Dakota.
I was a little too far past the amphitheater at the bottom. I was actually kind of going up the hillside through the scree above the tree line, and there was a gentleman with a megaphone that asked me to please come back down.
Probably.
That's why I didn't take the Sturgis.
Yeah, because you got a great view, though.
You made it back in one piece. Good for you. All right, before you got a guest coming on, we're going to talk with a fellow named Dave Kammermer, who's Summit Funding in Eugene, who's the area manager. We'll talk to Dave in just a minute here, but just kind of give us a quick thing, Guy. You've been busy. What's going on? Just kind of give folks a kind of a review of mortgage rates right now.
You've been keeping interest rates down there in the forest, so you've been doing well.
I've been single-handedly keeping them down for the last 3 years. But anyway, at this point, we have people just still moving back in. Our rates are really still in the low 4s to high 3s on some of the government stuff. So everything's going great as far as rates and.
Yeah, and I still, how do we never understand rates, do we? I mean, because we were sitting in here in these shows predicting rates were going to go, they went to 5% roughly, and they were going to keep climbing, and they actually they hit that 5% rate, but they've kind of fallen back now, isn't it? I mean, who would have thought that, the way everybody was predicting? Nobody got it right.
Yeah, there are just a ton of factors, and right now just kind of the unease around the world right now with just everything from Israel to the Ukraine to everywhere. It's just keeping investors a little bit into safer things, which is nice for us in the home loan market, but we're still praying for those guys for sure.
And our economy hasn't taken off in great fits and bursts yet. And here and there it has. If you're in North Dakota or South Dakota fracking up there, you're in good shape. But otherwise, jobs are still not as coming back as far as we'd like, and all those other factors.
Well, when we first met Guy, he was telling us a story. Remember, Joe, about how he got involved? Because you were a mortgage lender before you became with Summit Funding, and you were telling us the story of how you got together with them, and share that, because I think we'll lead into our guest here. But
you're still relatively new.
You're a rookie, probably kind of young guy with them. But tell us how that story went, because I think people need to know, because we always look for companies who in businesses, who have values in our community and the kinds of things that we always talk about. And you kind of fit into that mode. So tell us how you did that again.
Well, I started out with a really big bank. Actually, you couldn't probably get any bigger than the bank I was with. Worked there for a lot of years, and it felt to me like investments were their focus one month, and then the next month it was checking accounts. And about every third or fourth month, we'd be lucky enough to have mortgages come up as what they wanted to do. And so I kind of sought out a company that just focused on mortgages, and that's all we do. So consequently, I have people that want to close loans, so we look for ways to get things done instead of just looking for ways to shut them down. So it's been going well.
Yeah. So you got to them and you called them.
He had
right?
a transaction. You had a transaction with them, and that's where they really caught your attention.
Yeah, they were just I don't know. They just impressed me from the very first phone call, and so I kind of called up the CEO and said, "Hey, what do we do to get a Summit Funding down here in Medford? We need one."
And I guess that led to Dave Kammermer, correct? And,
yes.
and so Dave, are you with us on the phone? Are you there?
I am.
Hey,
Thank
look
you
at
very
that!
much.
It worked. You held on. Thank you for doing that. So this guy, somebody calls you and say you got to talk to Guy Giles. He wants to open the Summit Funding office in Medford. Is that true?
That is true, and something interesting about Guy. Obviously, if you don't know this about him, he's very energetic. He's honest as the day is long. So I was impressed with Guy from day one. I also knew a little bit about him because I've been in the business a while, and I know a lot of the other players in our competition. That's part of what we do is pay attention to what's going on around us.
That's right.
And, Guy's name came up a couple times. And you know what? He's a little bit bold, and this is what I like about him. He reached out and actually talked to we call him our company president, Todd Screama. He's our CEO. He really started the company. I watched Todd build this company almost from the beginning. So very impressive story there. But then Guy comes along, and I met him. We talked to him on the phone. I went down to meet him, and we bonded immediately. We're very similar. I don't know. You guys are in real estate, so you know what I'm saying about this. We're all kind of crazy, aren't we? We really are salespeople. We're all kind of nuts. But where we go overboard is that we really like to help people. And Guy has this big heart. We're similar that way, and he really loves to help people. And I was impressed by that. And I like his honesty. And I look for people who are bold and who are very direct and who are not hiding from the business. Okay? Yeah. And Guy is one of those people. You know what he was missing is he had never worked for a company that really took this as a profession. And our industry has been broken for a long time. It's full of cowboys. We all know what a mess it became. I mean, let's be serious about this. Our industry crashed the world economy in 2009, didn't it? Yep. Okay? And so we've been fixing that ever since. And what we really do now is we're doing great loans. We're doing on purpose. The reason rates are low, or one of the reasons, is the quality of loans. Now, we all know how hard it is to get a loan now, but from my perspective, from being in this business 20 years, it's back to the way it was before when you actually had to qualify and you actually had to have the documentation to get a loan so we could prove that you had the ability to pay. Well, we're back to that time, and we really like it. And so the quality of loans is high enough now, and I think that's part of why rates stay low, because they're actually pretty good investments now, because we know it's so hard to get one, so the chance of them going bad is a lot lower than it was a while back.
The chances chances of default are less by having the tighter
Absolutely.
standards. I mean, obviously that's true. Yeah.
Well, the level of due diligence to get a loan and to pass and actually become a borrower nowadays, I think those loans are, there's still going to be some defaults, but that percentage has gone way down. And of course, the risk of default is removed when you know that your people can actually make the payments. And we can go deeper into that subject.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we need to go there. Back to Guy, though, very interesting character. I really enjoyed him right off the bat, and he was working at a bank where they aren't licensed. I don't know if you know this, but people that work at FDIC banks, they don't have to be licensed like the rest of us.
So
I put him through that process.
Hang on a second, Dave. People who work at FDIC banks, is that what you said? So the big banks, Bank of America, Chase Bank, those people who are handling loans are not.
They're not required to be licensed at the same level as originators like myself.
No kidding.
Broker, it's just a different level. They got kind of left out, or they skirted around the regulations. They're actually governed by a different body, so they aren't really held to as high a standard as our company is. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but Guy didn't have that level of accountability yet, and so we had to put him through that part. He was kind of worried about it because, honestly, it's like going back to school. You got to study, and you got to pass it. You have to pass a test, and you can't just pass. I mean, you have to hit a grade that's high enough that you can get in. Mm-hmm. So he was able to do that, and then we brought him on board, and we'll tell you, helping him understand structure and a little bit of leadership. We have a team concept, and I'll tell you, it's not a concept. In practice, it's the only way to do this business, because if you really want to give great service and you really want to do all the things, Guy can't do 100% of those all himself. He needs to have a team that backs him up. And so that's why we were able to deliver the service where, because we understand that, and we've built our company around that, and our company culture has been built around teams from day one. So we've been practicing it for a long time.
And Dave, Guy's been building his team down here and expanding his team to keep up with the business that's coming in, because we got referred to Guy by Bob Gerbet, who's our owner of Remax Ideal down here and one of our key partners in this program. And he's a guy who has a big heart for the community and puts his time, effort, and his money where that heart is, too, in many, many ways. So I could see what you say about bonding with him, because we had that same feel for his synergy of not just being a good businessman and he's really excited to be focusing on mortgages and focusing on the Summit Funding branch. That's all fell in place really nicely, and couldn't happen to a nicer guy, so to speak.
Well, isn't that, look at everybody saying such nice things about you today.
I know. I don't know if I can afford this.
I would just say one thing. When I first talked to Guy, he didn't hesitate. You said, I'm in. You know that? And I'll never forget that, because most people are going to hit, him, but Guy didn't hesitate at all. He said, nope, I love it. I'm in. Let's go. Let's do it. And here we are today.
And I believe in in my company and my product.
Yeah. And he said that from day one.
And that's the funny part, though, is I thought I had a whole month before I was going to take my first show. And then you called me and said, by the way, can you go on live TV tonight?
Well, you signed up, 4 days before your first TV show.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, you are bold.
Dave, we broke him in really well. In the media world, we didn't hesitate at all to get him on here, and it's also it's good for him to learn as we go along with, and some of the great information that we give our listeners for the last 5 years has been pretty darn good, because if our listeners have followed us, they know what this market is doing and what's going on, and where to find the good loans, and who are the people that can give you and help you, as we see with Guy. I referred him, a client of mine, to him. He's helping him right now, and you guys would be proud of me, by the way, because I said as we're going around showing these properties, I go, well, you got to get the lender. We got to get the pre-approval letter, and they're going to ask you for this, and this. So after he talked to Guy, who asked him for this, and this, he called me up and said, you were right. He asked me for this, and this, and I was ready for it, which I thought was really cool. So sometimes that does
work. Our
work.
lenders are wearing off on us a little bit, or educating us.
Well, before we let Dave go, you want to say, Dave, what programs, are there anything out there that Summit Funding has coming up that consumers, loan types of things or programs that we might be aware of, that you might be able to pass on to our listeners?
Well, there's a couple of neat things. I think there's other lenders that have these products. We're really key at this. Summit Funding is a direct lender, which means we have control of the entire process. We package and securitize and service loans, and so we sell direct to Fannie Mae, and that gives us a lot of ability. So there's a couple things that I think are really interesting. When we're looking at somebody who doesn't have their 20% down, and they think, I'm going to have mortgage insurance. Well, gosh, we've got a way to do that where that mortgage insurance doesn't get included in the payment. It's a lower cost loan, especially if they have high credit scores. So we really consult with the client. So we've got this product that has we call lender paid mortgage insurance, and it's built into the rate. And when you have a high credit score, it's actually a pretty good deal. It's by far the best deal for the client. So we have something like that. There's this new program that actually has been around for a while in various forms. It's a grant program, and for certain people that qualify, it's income driven. It's called the NHF, or National Home Buyers Fund, and they literally can get a grant. This is free money. They don't have to repay, and it's given to them, and it really can assist people who don't have enough money for down payment. So they have the means to make the payment. They've got good credit. They've proven themselves, but it's a struggle for people to save up that 3 or 4 or 5%, on a $200,000 house. Well, we have this program now where it's actually something that's given to them. They can get up to 5% of the loan amount. That's usually enough to cover down payment and some or all the closing costs.
Boy, that's a gap, especially for first-time home buyers.
Yeah, it can make a huge difference in a lot of folks, because most people, if they got to go rent, most of them have to come up with a couple $1,000s anyway. If they can come up with that, and they have the means to have home ownership, and they have the ability to make the payment, this is a great program for them. And I'm glad that those things are coming back.
Yeah, well, on our cable TV show last Tuesday, we talked about that with Cordy Craner from Tycor was there, and Guy was there, about people coming in first month's rent, last month's rent, plus a deposit.
Pet deposit.
You almost have enough to put down as the down payment. Yep. And on some of these programs that you're saying, Dave, that may be a difference for people.
Absolutely. Let's face it, home ownership is still the dream of most Americans. I think that's wonderful. And by the way, when you want to rent and you've got a dog, that's not easy, is it?
No.
And then it's not your house.
And a vacancy rate.
Some things you can't do to the house.
Yeah.
I mean, people, when it's their domicile, their crib, if you will, and they want to have it be their own. I mean, I think that's what most of us want. And there's all sorts of statistics about how the kids are better off if mom and dad own the home, all that sort of thing. I mean, those things are important to people. And so we really help supply that, and that's important to us.
That is, and the vacancy rate here is well below 2%. So good luck if you've got a pet to find a rental, especially a place that you would be comfortable, like a 3-2.
Well, and there's 1,200 homes on the market here, and one of the things I'm sure that Dave, that you've seen also is the huge reduction in repossessed homes, isn't it now? I mean, we're seeing very few of them here.
Well, I think what's happened is we've gone through that cycle, and of course it peaked through this mortgage blow-up, downturn, whatever you want to call it, of course, because there were so many loans that were done, values spiked upwards. There was people that walked away from houses because they just didn't have the means to keep making those payments. So yes, we cycled through that. Now, will they end? No, they're not going to end. All through history, there's always been foreclosures, but I think it's back to a more acceptable level.
Well, I
What I
think
mean by
so
acceptable, it's normal.
And normal is what Bob was saying. What about 5%? It kind of is a normal kind of thing we're seeing. But right now,
honestly, that's even on the high side.
and that's on the high side. Okay.
1.5% to 2% of all mortgage loans going in default is a normal type of market.
Boy.
If you look statistically, whenever we've had an economic downturn of some time, you always see them go up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, if that was a normal market of 1.5%, we were like at 80, almost 75% at one time in this county in terms of sales.
Absolutely.
Hey, Dave, stay with us. You're a national coach. We want to ask you about some of the things you talk about to other people around the country. So the Real Estate Show. So stay with us. The Real Estate Show rolls on here on KMED AM 1440. Don't you dare go away, because we are coming right back after this. The Real Estate Show rolls on here on KMED, AM and FM. Welcome to the show. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the Real Estate Guys, with you. And thanks for being with us as we continue on here in mid-August. Next week, Kelly Madding, Jackson County's Community Development Director, will be along with Brad Bennington from the Home Builders, and we'll get you updated on maybe what developments are out there, because we're going to run out of space. Isn't that just crazy? Here we're talking about after having seemed like years of no building and having all these lots that were so cheap, and all of a sudden now we're talking about they're almost full. What's going to come next, because we have begun building houses again, and it's really interesting how that changes.
Those lots were foreclosed on, is how they became cheap. But at the same time, the building came to a screeching halt. The acquisition of lands and the opportunity to work to develop lands came to a screeching halt as well. So we were left with the inventory of lots that we had, and it hung around for about 5 years, and now we've snapped it right up. So it's going to be interesting. If you've got some land in hand right now, probably looking good for years to come.
It's really interesting how that reverses and changes up and down, as Bob always says. It goes up and down. We're with Guy Giles from Summit Funding, and Dave Cameron from Summit Funding is up in Eugene on the phone with us today on the Real Estate Show. We're talking about mortgage interest rates and things like that, and thank you for joining us. And Dave, I wanted to say, Guy was saying that you're a loan originator, correct?
That's correct.
Tell people, because I've really never talked to a loan originator before, but I've sure had conversations about them in the past. Tell me what a loan originator. Tell people what a loan originator actually does.
It's a loan officer. A loan originator is actually, the technical term is, we originate the application. So we're the beginning of the process. Okay, and so our job is to meet with the client, and we fill out the application, and we consult with them about what the best product is. It's our job to know the guidelines and to take care of the client and do what's best for them. We're actually now legally obligated to do that, but the good originators have always been that way and have always had that practice.
Mm-hmm. And
so an originator originates the loan. That's where that comes from.
Mm-hmm. And how important is it, do you think, when you originate loans, you say you're a direct lender like Summit Funding is, and how important is that to a buyer to have a lender who does that?
Well, I think it's critical nowadays. So, this business has had its own cycles, and when the money was flowing really freely, at that time, I chose to be a loan broker, and there's a reason why. But right now, and I think it's going to be this way going forward, is working for a direct lender is the best way to serve the client. So I've always chosen the platform that I work for in terms of how can I best serve my client, because I want to be the most competitive and have the best thing to offer. So that's why I'm with a company like Summit Funding. A direct lender is somebody who we loan our own money, because we're responsible for the loan from day one all the way down the line. We have a higher level of responsibility, but that makes the loans that we do more saleable or more desirable to the secondary market.
Okay, to the secondary market.
Sure. Yeah. So
you've done your homework, so the secondary market will know that they've got a pretty good deal coming from you.
You got credit
from Summit Funding.
That's exactly right. And for example, a bank like Wells Fargo, for example, they also originate loans, but it's just a department of the bank. And then that bank may have their own rules. We call them overlays in the business. And they may not be able to serve every client because of their specific set of rules. Well, we have those things too, but we can go around that and maybe there's a loan that they won't do for whatever reason, but we can because we don't have the same rule, because Fannie Mae doesn't have the same rule. So we sell direct to Fannie Mae. A lot of people who are mortgage bankers, and they call themselves direct lenders, aren't really direct. They're what they call a correspondent. And so their rules correspond to the wholesale or the correspondent level of, say, a bank like a Chase or a bank like a Wells Fargo. So they have to stick to their rules no matter what. We just have to know the Fannie Mae rules. That's it. Fannie Mae is who, really, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac is who buys all the conventional loans at some point. Right?
At some point, yeah, they do.
And so we sell direct to them, and because we can securitize loans with them, and we also are servicing loans, then we can follow their rules only and not add new rules. And on top of that, we really are bypassing any true middleman in the way. There isn't a middleman between us and Fannie Mae. We're going straight to the source. So we're able to offer a very good price and also have the staff and the service.
Yeah.
Our model is not an advertising model. So we spend all our money on people and service.
Yeah, I
Make
direct.
sense?
And I only direct clients to direct lenders. I only do that. So,
and we've learned that. And Dave, early on in our show 5 years ago, we learned about direct lenders and the advantages. And I learned about the different loans that had the gamut of loans that were available. They could match just perfectly with the client. And then I had a client who was working with a bank. And I said, well, you should ask this loan because this would be perfect for you. It was a USDA. I was like, that was not available.
Well, like all banks.
There was a hand-picked line of items that you could choose from and not necessarily the one that's going to give you the best chance to get your home.
And like all banks are not the same, all mortgage lenders are not the same. And that's the thing. So many of us, I think everybody does the same things when they really are similar, but they're not. Now, Dave, before we let you go, I want to say you coach. I mean, well, when Joe and I became brokers 7 years ago, Brian Buffini, we took the Brian Buffini course, that all realtors, I think, take, learn how to do the business and the kind of thing that you do.
Yeah, Buffini's a great program. Absolutely.
It's excellent. Now, you do the same thing. Is that right?
Yeah, and there's a Mike Ferry program out there similar. So, yes, the company that I am coaching for now, and I will tell you, I know they're the best in our business, and we've proven it by results. I became one of their students almost 11 years ago, and it's a 2-year program that I committed to. And I went through that and graduated, and they kept me around because I wanted that culture. I mean, it's ingrained in me now. And what I was learning from these people, it was the right way to do the business, and it was a right way to track things. And it kept me on an even keel. The truth is, it took away some of the unknowns, and most of us who fly by the seat of our pants in sales, most of us go through that. It gave me a system and structure. And because it was best practices, in other words, we were coaching people across the nation, and we were taking the things that the best people were doing and learning from them, and then everybody else was kind of following suit and doing the same thing. Does that make sense?
I know.
It really became what I call a best practices company. So I became one of their graduates, and then they put me in a master program, and at one point, they actually invited me to be one of their coaches. It's a great honor. I will tell you, it's some of the best people I've ever been associated with in my life and business. And they've helped me with all sorts of things besides business. I mean, balance, and it's a great group of people, and I respect them very much. And here's what it does for me. It gives me the ability now to coach others like Guy. And so I've got the skill set and the experience, and it's about giving back. I get coached still every day, and I have people that help me, and the ones that coach me are the ones who have achieved at a greater level than I have. And so I'm still learning from them, and then I get to give back to somebody like Guy. And Guy is very hungry to learn. He's a very, very good student. He's got a big heart, and those are the kind of people I look for. And wouldn't you agree in business, at some point, it's a wonderful thing when we can choose the ones that we want to be around, and that's what we have with me and Guy.
Yeah,
don't we always talk about that?
And
doing that yourself.
Those comments you make about the coaching and the mentoring you received absolutely echo what you told us earlier about helping Guy get started here, and the same kind of best practices that you help him get organized and just point him in the right direction, then he can take it, build his team, and fly.
That's one thing I actually should probably mention. If you're driving on your way up north to look for a house this weekend, he is an originator also, and you can get a hold of Dave. You can get a hold of Dave at 541-868-1850, and he's happy to help anybody up north.
Well, it's really interesting, Dave, that you've taken that particular challenge on in terms of speaking, and I like the best practices thing. We need more of that in our industry, because we've learned one thing, is that the whole real estate world is so big. As you know, it's not just real estate brokers, and I know you deal with them a lot. And what are you finding around the country brokers? Are they in a pretty good mood these days? Or tell us what you're telling them in their job, in their related businesses.
Well, I'm glad you asked. Our company, Core Training, we coach lenders and realtors, and we have realtor coaches and we have lender coaches. And so we know they're two different animals, but our businesses, they're in a symbiotic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We depend on each other. They're intertwined. And we're very similar. Honestly, this is how we look at it. The real estate agent is literally, they are the center of the transaction because they've got a lot of the liability. They're directing a lot of traffic. Once in a while, it's a cash transaction, so the lender's not necessary for that particular thing, but most of the time, the lender's in there. And I'm going to use an analogy of maybe a symphony orchestra. We see the realtor as the conductor. Think of the lender as the string section. It's the biggest section of the orchestra.
Yeah.
We're part of your team. And so what we teach is that lender has to be so good at what they do, they become an extension of that realtor's team. And that's what I've been teaching Guy. And
well, you're doing a pretty good job with it, Dave. We're going to be out of time, so thanks for joining us. And we'll keep an eye on Guy for you, though, and make sure that he's following all the things that you've taught him, okay?
I appreciate the opportunity today. Thank you very much.
All right.
Dave comes across pretty well on the radio, too, in case folks haven't noticed over the last two segments.
Dave should come down and talk to us, Joe.
Come visit us.
Do a
TV show, too.
Real Estate Show rolls on. Here we're coming right back after this.
Hoping to sell a home in today's real estate market? Wondering if it's the right time to buy? Get the facts from RE/MAX.
RE/MAX Ideal Brokers is now part of the Real Estate Show. They're a full-service brokerage with offices in Medford and Grants Pass. Hey, you know what you want. We know how to make it happen. That's what makes RE/MAX an ideal partner. Learn more at idealbrokersinc.com.
Nobody sells more real estate than RE/MAX. Find out what RE/MAX can do for you. Where do you want to be? Each office independently owned and operated.
The purpose of the Jackson Soil and Water Conservation District is to encourage good stewardship of land and water for rural and urban property owners. To achieve that, the district holds numerous classes throughout the year, and now is the time to sign up for them at jswcd.org. Many are taught by district staff and include topics like pasture and small woodlands management, soil types, and rain gardens. Popular natural resources day camps this summer. Find out more at jswcd.org. Most services are free. Knowledge gained, priceless.
All Cities Property Management is now part of the Real Estate Show. All Cities covers all phases in residential management of homes, condos, apartments, duplexes to fourplexes, and homeowner associations. For photos and visual tours of available properties, visit them online, allcitiesprop.com. Accurate accounting and tenant screenings, professionally done showings, and a full-time staff are all reasons why All Cities is #1 in owner and renter satisfaction. Call them at 245-8811.
At Ticor Title, we are experts in handling real estate transactions. Hello, I'm Shelley Culbertson, Sales and Marketing Manager for Ticor Title. From the simplest to the most complex real estate transactions, our staff is the reason customers continually turn to us for the reliability, responsiveness, and security they demand. Our title and escrow departments are structured to provide the highest level of customer service. We are committed to closing transactions quickly and efficiently.
Hoping to sell a home in today's real estate market? Wondering if it's the right time to buy? Get the facts from RE/MAX.
RE/MAX Ideal Brokers of Medford and Grants Pass invite you to take advantage of our residential, rural, and commercial real estate experts in the local markets. Visit us at idealbrokersinc.com to search for properties or find an agent.
Nobody sells more real estate than RE/MAX. Find out what RE/MAX can do for you. Where do you want to be? Each office independently owned and operated.
The Home Builders Association of Josephine County present the 36th Annual Spring Home and Garden Show this weekend at the Josephine County Fairgrounds in Grants Pass. Admission is only $3 and 16 and under are free. A portion of the proceeds will benefit Relay for Life. Top home improvement professionals will be available with money-saving ideas and the latest and greatest products to build, remodel, or rejuvenate your home and yard. Evergreen Federal Bank, McKenna Homes, Rogue Valley Heating and Air, Fields Home Improvement, Cabinet Crafters, IndoorAirman.com Energy Conservation Specialists. There's something for everyone at the Spring Home and Garden Show. In addition to all the great vendors, each day has something new. Saturday from 9 to 5, come check out the classic cars. Sunday from 10 to 4, bring the kids to see Annie the Clown, enjoy face painting, and much more. The Spring Home Show is this weekend at the Josephine County Fairgrounds in Grants Pass.
A flat tire can ruin your day, but an improper tire repair can put your family at risk. When that next pesky nail punctures your tire, remember this. Repairs are limited to the inner tread area only, never the sidewall. And punctured tires must be removed from the rim to assess and fix damage on both the inside of the tire and the outside. Learn more, visit betiresmart.org. A message from the Rubber Manufacturers Association.
Real Estate Show continues here on KMED this weekend. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the Real Estate Guys, with you. And thanks for joining us as we move along during the month of August. Don't forget, Joe and I are happy to help at any time. You can email us at Joe or Pete at realestateshoworegon.com. Of course, all of our shows are also available on YouTube, youtube.com/realestateshowOregon. We thank you for going there. People who miss the show or want to go back and tell your friends about it, they are there as well. What else? This is going on.
I check my Real Estate Show Oregon mailbox every day, wait for folks to check in with this. So drop us a note if you have any questions or anything about the show or our guests or our content or your home
or real estate. Actually, we're actually pretty good at that.
That's part of our job is to just give you good information.
We're pretty good at that. That's why we do a show here, because we want to bring you
with really smart people
who are smarter than us. Well, I've learned today. Our guest today is Guy Giles from Summit Funding here in the Rogue Valley area, and I've learned today that I did not realize that there was a difference in terms of people who do these loans. You have a certain level of education you have to get to, and the big banks, the FDIC bankers, people don't. I didn't know that. I mean, that's just this is one of the things that you'll learn that you didn't really know.
Yeah, it was definitely some higher level of learning that we had to go through. I think a lot of people kind of cut their teeth at the big banks and learn the business
and then move on.
Yeah.
So no, I think you're right. And my last dealing with one of the big banks was they lost the person who was doing the loan left. And then the big bank lost the loan. It just kind of sat there for days and days, and no one knew anything about it.
They didn't lose it; they just didn't know.
Nobody knew where it was, and it was really funny because the buyer ended up going to a mortgage broker instead of the bank, because of the bank. He was so upset by the time this was done with the bank. So I mean, those things happen, and it's everything. But again, it's picking the right real estate broker, the right mortgage lender, as we've heard even from our guest Dave Cameron, is that they work together. You got to be in sync together, or the thing is going to fall apart, and then everyone's going to be unhappy.
I like that thought of me being the conductor up there.
Yeah, that's good.
I could picture that.
First year trumpet, 8th grade.
Well, before we get out of here, tell a guy so interest rates right now, programs. What are people doing? They're coming to you. What are you hearing? What are you seeing?
Well, a lot of people still like this USDA program.
The USDA 100%, 100% loan.
Yeah, there's still a lot of people trying to go in for that loan program. We just have to beware a little bit. It's a great program if you don't make too much money, but you can still make a really decent living doing it. But they're backed up because it is such a great loan.
7 weeks I saw or more. Yeah,
it's about 35 business days in their underwriting right now.
Yeah.
So
is that the only kind of public program that is 0% down? I mean, I know there's VA, but in terms of
these bond programs are out there too. So someone's welcome to call us and talk about those. So yeah, there are some income limitations. They don't want the CEO of the big company. It is really designed on these to give some money to folks that may not otherwise be able to get into a house. So so they're a little bit stricter on that, but there are guidelines, and there's definitely people using those programs. So
what's the USDA backlog? Is it demand for loans and services? Yeah. Oh, that's kind of a good sign. I mean, people are taking advantage of it.
They typically go through something or another by the end of the year,
and have to refund. Look
what Dave was telling us. Remember about people having how difficult it is to come up with that money for a down payment.
The big bridge.
So many of us live, paycheck to paycheck along the way there, and that's difficult to do. But like you say, when you're rented, you go to a renter, and you got to go to you got to pay first month's, last month's, and that whole thing.
I had no idea it was that expensive until I just heard her.
Yeah, it's hugely expensive to do. So many times you're better off to do this. Are there any first-time home buyers? I mean, we talked so much about them. Remember a few years ago, that was the thing was course, they were giving away $7,500. Remember, the government was. So.
And we needed them to get our economy and our.
But is there any program still out there, or are those kind of gone the wayside and you got to go back either USDA or FHA or that kind of thing?
Basically, that is what USDA and FHA are designed for, is to get the first-time home buyer in. But again, a lot of the conventional loans now are becoming more attractive. They're realizing, I believe, last time I heard that the USDA, even though it's 100% financing, they underwrite their loans pretty well, and they have probably, I think, the lowest default rate just under those.
You're right. The USDA now charges a 2% loan fee on a USDA loan that's added to the cost of it. But that pays for the program because it was going to go. It had no money. Maybe it had to run out of money, and Congress was not going to Congress was not going to reissue. So they came up with the idea. Well, we'll put the 2% loan fee on all these loans. It pays for the program. And you're right. USDA has the lowest default rate of any federal housing program. That's so neat to me. I think that's great.
Yeah, and I mean, I always hear at least once a week I'll have somebody come in and say, "What's your first-time home buyer program?" And really, it is just a couple of the government things. It's almost like it was something to just kind of get people in the door. We have a first-time home buyer program. I mean, typically, if you buy a house, if you've owned one in the last 3 years, then you're not a first-time home buyer, and then they literally, kind of put you in the same bucket if you haven't owned one for 3 years. But there's really not a ton of extra programs or anything for people that haven't bought houses before. They're pretty much available for everybody.
Advertising campaigns.
Tell me about refinancing, because people have gotten equity back in their homes. Joe's over here salivates every time we talk about this because he's kind of above water for the first time since he bought his house.
A lot of years ago. Barely see the sun underwater.
But are people refinancing again? I mean, is equity coming back to where there actually is that enough to make that, or what are you seeing there?
The equity's coming back almost scary quick. I mean,
really,
it's amazing. I mean, I think we talked a little bit on the TV show.
The prices have increased. There's no question about that.
21 homes in Ashland on tour, $300,000 and above.
And above, yeah.
People just a couple of years ago. I mean, what's the cheapest house you guys saw in Ashland? I'm sure it was in $100,000 mark a few years ago, and it's going up all around here. So, the rates, like I said, they're still low. It's just great to find a good real estate agent like one of these two here, and I don't know, just get in contact and we just open the dialogue and see if it's the right time to buy.
We'll see. It's interesting. I don't know what's going to happen. And you talk about how it changed, in the statistics that came out for May, June, and July, Joe, in Jackson County, the rate now of regular sales, there's only even on the market, there's less than 50 short sale foreclosed properties on the market right now in the county. And they account for now about 10, about 10% of the sales.
And this is just a guess.
Yeah,
but I bet we got some. I bet we got some of the lesser foreclosed properties out there.
Well, a lot of them have gone through. I mean, it's really going to see.
They've probably been there a long time. I think.
No, but remember, there was a lot of judicial foreclosures that were out there that were being held back, and the prices of these properties have increased because they are being held back. If there's still some more out there that are vacant that we don't know about. Anyway, that's a whole other story. Guy, nice to visit with you. Summit Fund. How can people find you at Summit Funding?
Well, you can just call me at area code 541-944-6987. That's the fastest way. That's my cell phone.
All right, that'll
do
it
in his hands right now.
That'll do it for the Real Estate Show. Have a great week, everybody. God bless, and we'll see you next weekend right here on KMED AM and FM.
Thank you for listening to the Original Real Estate Show with Pete Belcastro and Joe Brett, the Real Estate Guys. For advice, guidance, or counsel on any of our topics, or to watch a replay of today's show, visit our website at realestateshoworegon.com. This show is sponsored by RE/MAX, Ideal Brokers of Southern Oregon, Ticor Title, All Cities Property Management, and the Jackson Soil and Water Conservation District. We'll continue our weekly quest to enhance the value of your property and to make you a smart real estate consumer when we gather every Saturday and Sunday on KMED for the one and only Original Real Estate Show.